You know, in today's life especially, it's not the way to go. You got to learn how to hone your negotiating skills. You got to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn how to network. All of these things are important if you want to succeed in life. And I can guarantee you, you know, the people that are on top in this life, they knew exactly that that was the way to go. Hey everyone, welcome to another sit down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well, all is okay, doing good on this end. Praise God for that. You know, we talked a lot about dealing with people in my former life and how I got by and how I got along and things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do, how you survive in that life. I've said this many times and I'll say it again. That's a tough life. And in that life, if you die of old age and you die free, you've really accomplished something. And I mean that. And I think the ones that did survive, they just carried themselves the right way. Now, let's put aside the fact that the government went crazy back in the 80s with the racketeering law and put so many guys in jail. That's something I think nobody saw coming. The government just got the upper hand. They created the laws. They had all the tools, all the weapons. And unfortunately, it's just not a good thing to be on the street anymore. Unfortunately for guys like that. The government has too many weapons, and organized crime always seems to be in the crosshairs, Mafia, La Cosa Nostra especially. You just don't survive in that life anymore. And I tell young people that all the time. The gang life, the mob life, it's in trouble. The government has too many weapons, too many tools. But during my time in that life, I noticed that the guys that handled themselves properly were the guys that, number one, made money, and the guys that lasted longest and survived. You know, I talked about Carlo Gambino. He did it the right way. He was undercover. You know, he didn't wear who he was on his sleeve. He realized that the oath of omerta meant something. This was a quiet life, and you weren't supposed to be out there, be ostentatious, and show your colors all the time. Unlike, you know, Al Capone and John Gotti and guys that we've mentioned in the past. And, you know, to emphasize this, there is a scene from the movie Casino that stood out in my head. Joe Pesci, you know, Joe Pesci, great in a gangster role. I gotta say that, he's terrific. Robert De Niro, you know, he was in this scene also. He was terrific in his role, he always is. But this particular scene reminded me of something, and it's how you handle yourself and how you treat people. And you don't do it the way Joe Pesci did in this scene. So let me set up the scene for you. Nicky Santoro, Joe Pesci, is trying to reach the banker for a couple of weeks. He's avoiding him. He wants to meet. He gets in touch with De Niro. He says, you got to get this banker for me. So De Niro sets up a meeting at his house for the banker and Joe Pesci. You know, the banker starts to explain to Nicky Santoro, hey, you know, when you made this loan, I told you there could be a risk involved, and, you know, that's the way it is. So basically, he was telling him, you're beat. Now, that wasn't smart on the banker's part, obviously. You know, you take somebody's money, there's an investment. I think there was a better way to talk to him about it, but no. And he didn't realize who he was talking to. So Pesci turns around and he says, you know, great. He said, I don't think you really understand who I am. He said, if you don't have my money tomorrow morning, I'm going to come into the bank, I'm going to say hello to everybody, and I'm going to crack your skull open, basically. He then goes on to tell him, and listen, you know, I'll go to jail for that. I don't care. And by the time I get out of jail, maybe you'll be out of your coma. I'll come and visit you again, and then I'm going to crack your skull again because I don't care about jail. So basically, he threatens the guy, scares the guy, and the guy picks up and runs out. Scared, right? So now De Niro is witnessing all of this, and he says, you know, what are you doing? This is a legitimate guy. He's going to run to the FBI. And you know what? That's exactly what he's going to do. That was the wrong way to handle this. You don't threaten a banker like that. You know, there's different ways to talk and to get around them. You know, I always said this. Most of the time when I went into a meeting and I wanted to make a point, they knew who I was. I spoke definitively, and I made them understand this is what I want, and this is what I expect to happen. But I'm not going to threaten a guy, and I'm not going to put myself in a position position, especially with a legitimate guy, where he can run to the law, because that's what legitimate people do. That's what they're supposed to do. They run to the law. There's different ways of handling it. You know, on the street, I found out the same thing. You know, guys that were always threatening people, always extorting people, always, you know, using violence to get their way, they didn't last. And I'm not going to name all the names. We've been through this in other videos that I talked about. It's always better to handle things diplomatically if you can. And it's the same thing in life. You know, when you have a situation, it's always best to try to handle it diplomatically if you possibly can. You know, throughout this thing, De Niro is trying to explain it to Pesci, but Pesci's a gangster. He doesn't know anything from diplomacy. He wants to take over the whole city. He wants De Niro to understand and go along with him, and De Niro don't want any part of it because he realizes that's not the way to go. You know, in today's life especially, it's not the way to go. You got to learn how to hone your negotiating skills. You got to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn how to network. All of these things are important if you want to succeed in life. And I can guarantee you, you know, the people that are on top in this life, they knew exactly that that was the way to go. What I have here, I want you to click on, I have a negotiation guide. I have different tools and content that we've created exactly for this reason, to help you in your life benefit and succeed by my knowledge and my experience in the things that I've been through. So this scene illustrates that. That's what you don't do. You don't be Joe Pesci. You try to be De Niro. He tried. You know, he really did. He had too much against him because of his affiliations and his associations with the mob life. You don't get away with that, you know, in Vegas at that time. That's why he blew his license, but at least he tried and he was on the right track. At the end of the day, he survived when Joe Pesci didn't. You know, again, we can use some of these scenes to illustrate to you the way you should handle yourself in business and in life and the way you shouldn't. So my advice to you, don't be a Joe Pesci. Try your best to be a Robert De Niro in this scene. And I want you to click on the link below and again, get my negotiation guide and workshop. It's going to walk you through a lot of these skills that I learned, and I think it'll really be beneficial to you. So hopefully this scene has illustrated that, and hopefully you will click on the link below. And my inner circle, I would really encourage you to look into it. A lot of people are really benefiting. Myself and my team work hard. We create these negotiation skills. We create leadership guides. We create content that is gleaned from my knowledge and experience on the street, specifically to help all of you. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the scene. Hope you enjoyed this video. And how do I always leave you? The same way. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless you, and I mean that. And yes, I'll see you next time. Take care.